LSU did it. LSU did it. 17-10 last night. They beat Clemson. Very much a welcome back LSU moment. I had to see the results of internal decisions with LSU. I doubted LSU. I just throw it out there. I doubted them. Not in this game. I picked them to lose the game. But I wasn't hardcore one way or the other on this game. It wouldn't have surprised me if LSU won the game. I said that last week. So I'm not doing the apology tour. I'm not throwing on the clown nose for the game prediction. However, it does appear that I could have been much too low on LSU, maybe, because this was a welcome back LSU moment. Defense, welcome back. Great personnel decisions and acquisitions, welcome back. They were down 10-3 at the half. They've sucked in opening weekend games, and they won the second half 14-0 on the road against a really good team and a really good coaching staff. Welcome back, LSU. We talk about winners first on the show. I thought they'd lose this game, although I thought it would be close, because I thought some of the things that bit them last year would still bite them. And look, Blake Baker is an American hero. That's what you need to know. Austin Thomas is an American hero. These are the defensive coordinator and the general manager, respectively, for LSU football. Brian Kelly's going to get a lot of credit. He should get a lot of credit. He's the face of the program. But, man, he was the face of the program a couple of years when they couldn't stop molasses in December and their personnel sucked, too. So I got to give credit to Blake Baker, the hire of one person and the guys he brings in defensively to coach. Look at what it can do. Look at what it did. Don't you know, who was it? Steve Winwood, Nashville resident, by the way, had this song called Don't You Know What the Night Can Do? Pretty good song, pretty underrated. Don't you know what a good defensive coordinator can do? Maybe put those lyrics to the song. I'm playing it in my head right now. It sounds pretty good. Dude, look at them. Look at how different this is. Imagine Blake Baker and Jaden Daniels sitting on the same team. How different that season might have been. Clemson last night at home had 20 rushes for 31 yards. They just stoned them, 1.6 yards per carry. Clemson's longest run was 7 yards. Jesse, is that right? Pop the paper. Good for Blake. He put a better move on one of his kids in practice than Clemson put on his players last night, which I should have gotten you the B-roll of. Like, Baker still got some moves. He's not an old guy. He can still move fairly well. Joints are working for Blake Baker. So was the play sheet. So they were 99th last year in explosive pass plays allowed defensively. And yeah, it was him at the wheel. But I remember last year we were down there. I was in the building. I walked in the defensive meeting room. He's in there. Kevin Peoples is in there. A lot of guys are in there. And I said at the time, I feel like you guys have squeezed every drop of potential out of this defense. And he kind of said, yeah. Thank you for noticing. Well, they got a lot more potential now because they got better players now. The longest pass, 26 yards. So remember now, this isn't a team breaking in a new quarterback. This is Cade Klubnik, multi-year starter. This is Garrett Riley, multi-year offensive coordinator there. They've got a really, really good receiver room. We think the best receiver room Clemson's had in a long time. I would say the same thing here that I said about Texas. If I told Clemson, hey, you're going to hold LSU to 17 and you're at home, will you take it? Yes, you take it. Well, you got it, and you lost. Just like if I told Texas, you're going to hold Ohio State to 14 in their own building. Do you take it? Yes, you take it. Well, you lost. And you lost because defense has made a shocking comeback. Defense has lowered itself from the rafters in Baton Rouge like Sting at, I don't know any of a number of WCW pay-per-views back in the day. This is the LSU identity that would force me to adjust on LSU. So a couple of weeks ago, we did this thing where I'd put my predictions out, because that's what a man does. He goes public before the season starts. Is everyone in the comment section listening? You go public before the season starts, not with the benefit of hindsight. And to your credit, a lot of you did. A lot of you told me LSU was going to be good. And to you, I can't yield the balance of my time. You don't have a microphone. But I apologize to you specifically, to the nameless, faceless trolls who hit me up normally after 2:30 a.m. and trashed my predictions. No one cares. You didn't predict anything. But anyway, we did our predictions, but then the next week we did this thing where I said, if I'm wrong, here's why I would be wrong. This is why I would be wrong with LSU. This is why 8-4 would be way too low on LSU because they had no prayer of doing this the last 2 years. They can't win a game defensively to save their lives the last 2 years. And now they can. Why? Better players and better coaching. Just a shocking combination. A better identity. But identity is kind of a focus grouped word. It matters, kind of like culture. It matters, but a lot of people just throw it out there. Identity, culture. Yeah, better players and better coaches, coaching the better players. That's really what's changed for LSU. And here's the thing. We'll get back to the video 1 second. Do me one quick favor. Look down. Make sure you're subscribed. Most of you are. If you're not, please do so. It's the way we keep the channel free, we keep the videos coming, and we get to do college football year-round as God intended. All right, as promised, back to the video. There's plenty of room to improve. I watched them, and they didn't blow me away offensively. In fact, offensively, it was kind of confusing to watch them in the first half. But that's the thing. When you don't have to score every possession, when you don't have to play keep up, you can actually afford to be loose. You can afford to have a wobbly wheel, wobbly tire or two, knowing full well it's week 1 of 12, and we can tighten the lug nuts up as we go, because that's how this car works in football, especially if we got a defense that gives us time. Same thing we're saying about Ohio State, you could say about LSU, because they came out on the plus end. There have been times where LSU was good enough to score 17. They just weren't good enough to hold the other guy under 27 or 30 or 34, and now they're good enough to do that. So, yes, if that's the LSU identity, then yes, LSU is a prime contender for everything. I'm not hitting the brakes. The only thing I'm trying to be careful on is, like, I remember last year, Georgia just throttled Clemson, 34-3. I think in that opener, it was either 34-10, 34-3. It was bad. I mean, they just body bagged Clemson. And everybody said, or everybody's question coming out of it was, not only is Georgia the favorite, like who could even compete against Georgia? Who can touch Georgia? Well, the reality was it was one outcome that still didn't fully reveal. Georgia had some issues. They just didn't get exposed against Clemson. Because Georgia went on to lose 2 regular season games. They won the league, but they were far from invincible. LSU's far from invincible. There doesn't exist an invincible team in college football this year. So that's the only hesitation I have. Like, I'm way more bought in on LSU now than I was. I'm just trying to be careful. I don't want to get hurt. Alabama already hurt me. I don't want LSU to hurt me. LSU, famously, my first love on this show. And so I don't want LSU to hurt me because it cuts a little deeper when LSU hurts me. Clemson can't scale. Clemson can't scale. I don't use cannot a whole lot on the show, but, I mean, we've got a big sample size now. Clemson just can't scale. Clemson cannot scale against good teams. They played 3 SEC teams last year, and they were 14 of 40 on third down. They were 3 of 13 on third down last night. They are a combined 17 of 53 on third down against these last 4 SEC teams they played. And it's not necessarily shouting SEC. Those are the highest level opponents Clemson happens to be facing because their own league has been bad. So they faced Georgia, and then they faced South Carolina, and then they faced Texas, and now they faced LSU. They can't scale their performance. So there's a high floor on this team, but the ceiling is well below that of a championship contender. And that's a problem because, you know, as much as people want to dunk on me for picking Bama, hey, a lot of folks pick Clemson. Clemson's not going to win a national title either. So we're kind of filtering a little bit, but they could make the playoff. Like, they could still do that. They could do what they did last year. There's just this myth out there that because you return a bunch of players, you get better. Sometimes you just are what you were. This is the same attention to detail you got to pay for Penn State. Be careful with Penn State. They may just be who they were. Now, I happen to think the receiver additions for Penn State will push them over the top. But I don't expect them to be quantum leaps better, just fractions here and there. I don't know that Clemson's found the margins, and they can't run the ball. So, ironically, they could be taking on the 2024 LSU identity, where they're going to have to ask Cade Klubnik to win them games, just like LSU had to ask Nuss to win games last year. Why? Because we can't run the ball. And what is Nuss? What is Garrett Nussmeier? They're good quarterbacks, but not transcendently great quarterbacks. So we cannot ask them to be elite when in reality it's unfair to expect elite from a guy who's just really good. That was the LSU identity last year. That's why they were so hot and cold. I think that may be Clemson this year. My default positions now, is Clemson has a high floor. I just think the ceiling's limited on them. And with LSU, it could be anything. I don't even know what my default position on LSU is. They could still lose 3 games. They could win the national championship. So LSU's a total wild card to me now. Because if that's them, and I saw Bama do what they did yesterday, I saw Texas lose yesterday, I haven't seen Georgia play a high-level opponent yet. I haven't seen Florida play a high-level opponent yet. Boy, it could be wide open. In fact, scratch that. The SEC is wide open. It could be LSU's for the taking. Who knows? It could be LSU's.